Normally I prepare my meat ahead of time. Can be 1 or 2 days ahead of time depending on what my schedule is. Everybody's busy, so you just have to work out a routine for yourself. So my meat has been prepared. I prepared this yesterday. The tools that I need or that I use to put the whole thing together at this point, I use a scale. This is just actually an old postage scale that I got from my sister. And you can measure your ingredients out by volume or by weight. I think measuring out by weight is more accurate. So I do measure by weight, except some of my liquid ingredients, I will measure those out by volume, tablespoons or teaspoons, depending on the ingredient. So I do have, this is, again, it's just an old postage scale that my sister gave me. And I know you can get them very inexpensively, but this does the trick for us just fine. I also use a food processor. You can use a blender, but you do need, unless you want to, it would be very time intensive to grate everything up to the level that you need it. You need everything to be quite mulched together. So a blender or a food processor. Again, I got this one on sale for like $30. You can find them pretty cheap, and it's more than paid for itself in the amount of food that I've made for my dogs. So my next step would be to measure out my ingredients. For me, I find it easiest to measure out my ingredients first, have them all ready before I even involve the food processor at all. So I get my cutting board and turn on my scale, and my scale is set to 0 with the dish on it. I cut off the end of my carrot, and then I'll just break it in 2. In this case, I need, I'm doubling the recipe, so I need 210 grams of carrots. Again, I just cut it off. And I try to be, this is 218. I try to be quite accurate. 210 exactly. So there my carrots are ready to go. We need 2 leaves of spinach, which I have here. And I need 2 hard-boiled eggs. Again, I'm doubling this recipe, so I will go ahead and peel my hard-boiled eggs. Again, I've prepared these ahead of time. Eggs are I have hard-boiled eggs in my refrigerator all the time anyway. Basically what I do is I just take a bunch of eggs, I put them in a pot of water before I put it on the stove. I cover the pot, turn the pot on, turn it on to about medium-high, and let it boil. Once the water is boiling, I take them off. I take them off the stove right away. Actually, I leave them on the ring, but I turn the stove off. I leave them on the ring. Once it's stopped boiling and the water is settled, I take them to the sink and just run some cold water on them. And that helps to be able to peel the eggs when it comes to this stage. So again, I always have hard-boiled eggs in the fridge. They'll stay good in your fridge for a week at a time at least, because I eat them too. So it's nice to be able to not have to worry about that. I just do a bunch of them ahead of time, and I've gone to a butcher down the road sells them in flats. So that's what I've started doing because I've got the dogs. I'm using them for the dog food. So that just makes that much easier. This one's not peeling very well. So I've got my hard-boiled eggs. I've got my carrots. I've got my spinach. I've measured out my tomato sauce here. And I've got all my other ingredients ready to go. This is one of the recipes that has less ingredients than some others, so it is a little bit faster to put together. What I'll do next, I do the carrots twice, because what I'll do is I'll put them in the food processor just to grate them. You can grate them by hand, but then I'll put them back in with the other ingredients just to make sure that they get mulched up properly. If you've ever seen a dog eat a carrot, if they eat big chunks of carrot, they pretty much go through them in one big chunk. So you want to mulch them up a little bit so that they get the most nutritional value from them. So in this case, I need my little handy dandy pusher thing. Now what does happen with this is the carrots don't necessarily get all chopped up either. So I'll take the big chunks that didn't make it through the processor and I'll just put them in with the rest of the ingredients. And that would be these end chunks. They don't seem to get through. So what I'll end up doing is I'll take this out and I'll just put it in my bowl. And this is the bowl that I'm going to use to mix all the ingredients in anyway. And I just do that because it's easier to get my other blade in. So I put on my regular blade. And the rest of my ingredients can just go in. So I'll actually just put that back in. I'll put back in, again, if you're just doing one recipe, you tend to be able to put almost everything in for a single recipe. You can put it pretty much all of it in at the same time. In this case, I'll leave that till after. In this case, I'm doing a double recipe. Usually when I'm doing a triple recipe, it's a little bit too much for the food processor, so that's why I use the big bowl. I'll do a couple of batches and mix it all in together that way. So I'm just going to get the carrots and the spinach mixed up. So it's like a mulch consistency. It's quite finely chopped up. Spatula is the most valuable tool, actually. Just want to push it all back down because what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add my cod liver oil and honey, safflower oil, and icosahderm to this mixture now. So in this case, I need. I'm going by teaspoons here, so I'm going to need, because it's a double recipe, I need 2 teaspoons of cod liver oil. If it was a single recipe, I would just use 1. Again, if you can find the liquid versions of all your oils, it's much, much easier than in the beginning. Because it was the most cost effective, I was using capsules and using a cake tester to put a hole in the capsule and squeezing the capsule into. That's very time intensive as well, and hard on the hands, especially if you're doing a triple recipe. So I have found liquid versions of everything. The cod liver oil you can get, actually if you've got a grocery store with a good pharmacy section, they have a good price on cod liver oil. Safflower oil is not hard to find, it's just in your grocery store. Icosahderm you get from your vet. If you can find liquid salmon oil, it is a substitute for salmon oil and a good substitute for salmon oil. But if you can find salmon oil in a liquid form, great. Some pet stores do carry it, although I think it's pretty hard to find. So the icosahderm is a good substitute for that. I know that with the icosahderm, 2 pumps of this is 2 grams, and in this case I need 2 grams twice. I need 4 grams because it's a double recipe. So I'll just use 2 pumps of the icosahderm. There's 2. Needed 1 or 2 pumps to get going. And I need 2.5 teaspoons of safflower oil, so that's going to be 5 because I'm doubling this recipe. And I just put all of this in together. Seems like a lot, but the safflower oil lasts forever. This is since I've been feeding cooked to my dogs. That was 5. Since I've been feeding cooked to my dogs, I've only gone through one bottle of safflower oil, and I've been cooking for my dogs now for about 3 months. So that's pretty good because a lot of the recipes do use a fair amount of safflower oil. I also need to mix in my honey. This one asks for 1 tablespoon of honey, and so this is going to be, I'll need 2 tablespoons of honey.